Hey, the Blue Shepard here. How you doing? People figure out pretty quickly after meeting me that I grew up on a farm. Maybe it's my accent, maybe it's the overalls. I wear overalls a lot, and cowboy hats, camouflage, and cowboy boots. I don't know, who knows? But anyway, let's talk about that. First of all, you guys go and check out wearedangerousbutgood.com. Company Dangerous But Good, owned and ran by Scott Parkins, putting out all sorts of cool Christian tactical gear and t-shirts and coffee. Good coffee. I love their coffee. I drink it. I actually just got this patch from them in the mail today. Let's see if we can get the light to focus on that right. Quote from Thomas Jefferson: "The tree of liberty must be refreshed from time to time with the blood of patriots and pirates." And it's got a little tree AR-15 deal there. Awesome patch. I love that quote. Somebody finally made it into an awesome patch, and it fits on my hat. See? wearedangerousbutgood.com. Use promo code BlueShepard10 to get 10% off of your entire order. I will post those details in the description of this video. Now, let's talk about the farm. I want to start hopefully a series of videos here using this same format. Maybe I'll call it On Patrol with the Blue Shepard. Don't know. Start a playlist, title that. Think that's a good idea? Comment. I want to discuss 10 life lessons that I learned growing up in an agricultural community in the rural South, specifically Central Eastern North Carolina. I grew up in the middle of a field that was in the middle of the woods that were down a dirt road. My parents weren't commercial farmers. My dad is a mechanic, professional mechanic. He works on golf and turf equipment. Those of you who don't know what that is, just look up a John Deere reel mower, R-E-E-L, reel mower. And then my mom worked jobs here and there along the way, but she sacrificed her career as a bank teller to stay home with and homeschool myself and my brother. And we were both homeschooled up until high school, and we opted to go to a local program which a community college offered, where we could obtain your high school diploma. It was like a GED program, but it wasn't. It was a high school diploma program. And so I obtained my high school diploma from a community college, and I graduated at age 16, and I started at a community college the day after I turned 17. Very thankful that my mother gave me that opportunity. My brother took the same route with the same college. Got his diploma from the community college. I'm very thankful that I was homeschooled. There were only a couple of times that I kind of thought that I might like to have gone to public school, and a few weeks of driver's ed rapidly cured me of that unction. Those of you who know me well know I have a total and loud disdain for the public school system, but we won't get into that. I'm digressing. Lessons I learned growing up on the farm. My dad was a mechanic. My mom was a teacher to us and worked here and there when she needed to, but they weren't commercial farmers, but they did homestead, I want to say. We had a big garden. We had a half acre or more garden in our front yard. We had goats, we had chickens, we had dogs, we had fish, hamsters, lizards, and frogs as well. Our house was a school. We had all kind of animals. But we got eggs from the chickens, and so we lived off of what we had. In addition to my dad's career as a professional golf and turf technician, mechanic. So my grandfather, my father's father, was the career farmer. He was a tobacco farmer, pretty big for this area, tobacco farmer, up until the government got involved. That kind of dwindled out, and he started getting into the soybean business. Soldier beans as he called them. He called them soldier beans because they all stood in rank and file rows. And so he was military. Both of my grandfathers were in the United States Army. But my father's father was the farmer. He had employees who worked for him. He had a decent outfit. His wife, my paternal grandmother, was totally devoted to his career of farming. She was the one who kept it together when she could. And so in that, where we lived was less than 200 yards from my father's house, so my grandfather's house. All the fields around our house were the fields that either he owned or he tended, so rented or sharecropped with other people. And lots of other fields all around in different places. When I was young, we got to help out a little bit because we thought it was cool. My mother, when I was a very small child, actually worked for my grandfather as an employee and was paid. And that's how I spent my years as an infant, was either sitting in a pack and play or on a pallet somewhere in the dirt, playing with the dirt, playing with my little Tonka trucks and shovels and picking up caterpillars. So, and that would horrify most millennial parents, but I think I turned out pretty good. But I grew up like that. We lived at the same place. I had the same address until the day I got married. And I was 22 years old when I got married. Lived at that same house at the back of the dirt path, off the dirt road, in the middle of the field, in the middle of the woods. When I was not in the field and farming, I was in the woods. And then when hard times came, we had to go and get involved in some things off the farm, but we still kept on gardening, kept on. Mama always canned. She always canned stuff, put stuff up. That was what we did in the summer. All summer long. You know how we beat the heat? We slept during the day, and whenever the sun started going down behind the trees, usually like 4 or 5 in the afternoon, where we lived, once the sun started getting behind the trees and there was some shade, we'd get up, we'd go out, we'd pick stuff until it was too dark to see, and then we'd bring it back in and we'd prepare it. We'd snap it and pick it and shell it and cut the stems off and dice it up, and then we'd put it in jars and we'd can all night long. And we'd go to bed sometime in the wee hours of the morning, sleep through the heat of the day again. And so that was what we did. Not only was that how she taught us, but that was how we got by. That was what we did that was necessary to get by. Let me go ahead and get to this list. I already know I'm going to have to do this in parts, and this is in no particular order, and these items I'm sure will overlap with each other. Number 1, property. I learned to value property. I learned to value our own property. I learned to value the property of others. I learned to value what it means to own property. It's one thing to be in possession of something, it's another thing to own it. And in learning that value of ownership, learn to respect the ownership of other people's property. I know there's lots of people, lots of hillbilly bumpkins that grew up in the woods and going and poaching on posted land. That wasn't how we were raised, and that wasn't the community I grew up in. Everyone in the community I grew up in, most of them were related. Most of the people around were my uncles or aunts or cousins or relatives thereof, and we respected each other's property. Some people, their property wasn't even posted, but you just didn't go there because you knew they didn't want you there, and it was out of respect. And the reason was because you expected that mutual respect to be shown back to your property. Respecting others' property when you're using it, when you borrow it. There's a lot of borrowing that goes on in a rural community like that because there is a sense of communal trust. When people trust each other, they will lend stuff, they'll let you use stuff, they'll give favors and not expecting anything in return. We'll get into that in a later point. Respecting other people's property. Responsibility for all property. So I'm responsible for my property, but I'm also responsible for my neighbor's property if I know what's going on. If we were driving down the road and we saw a cow out somewhere, we saw, out in the road, and my dad knew whose cow it was, first thing he would do is go straight to their house, knock on the door, be like, hey, number one, your cow's out. Number two, do you want me to help you get it in? Find that in a suburban community. Find that in the inner city. Responsibility for other people's property. Go knock on someone's door. Hey, your fence was down, but I put it back up for you. Hey, you let me borrow your truck and it got a flat tire, but I went and took it to the shop and had a plug put in it. You're responsible for property, whether it's yours or not. You also learn to preserve and defend property. You always see around here anyway, all these little community watch programs, all these little signs. You see something everyone's saying now. It goes a bit deeper than that, I think, in rural communities. It's really the fact of that, all the time. I remember even my uncle, he wasn't the most social person in the world, but he'd call and he'd be like, hey, are y'all home? There's a car down there at your house and I didn't know if y'all were home or not. I don't know who that is. I just wanted to make sure they were supposed to be down there. I don't recognize the car. It's a strange car. And in the middle of the night we'd see a truck pull in at my granddad's house, and my dad would, he'd go, do something like toss a shotgun in the truck and ride up there. That was what he had. That was what he rolled with. He wasn't a tactical individual at all. Just a husband and a father and a worker. But we were ready to defend not only our property, but everyone else's as well around us. Once again, it goes back to that mutual respect and that honor system of, if I take care of you, you'll take care of me. And let's stop right there for the end of part 1.